Nioh, specifically the second game, is something that deserves a lot more praise than it gets. As difficult as it is, it rarely sacrifices fun for difficulty, and if the player is smart enough, they can come up with some kind of crazy ass build to make the game a bit less tedious. I've been meaning to talk about this game for a long time, but I only started picking it back up again recently, and it kind of worked out because it's helped me kind of get my thoughts in order. I think player satisfaction is the best place to start because Nioh rewards the player for every little thing. The stances are probably the most distinct thing in Nioh, and I'm willing to bet it's what Nioh is most known for besides being Dark Souls for weebs. But Dark Souls already is Dark Souls for weebs. There are 3 stances for very different situations. I wouldn't say choosing the right stance is always necessary, but clearly low stance is great for dodging, mid stance is great for blocking, and high stance is great for 100% offense, so there's always going to be one stance that's better than the other depending on what the player wants to do. Back when I played Nioh 1 for the first time, I went through the entire game in high stance, and I did suffer quite a bit for it. Perfect ki pulses restore some of the ki used to attack, but there's also a skill called Flux that increases the ki gained when the player ki pulses and switches stances, meaning the player can potentially have infinite stamina. And it doesn't stop there. Ki pulses can cleanse these yokai pools here. Initially, there's only one benefit to doing this, getting rid of the yokai pools, but as the player unlocks more skills, they might get one that increases stamina recovery speed, or one that grants a defense buff upon cleansing a yokai pool. On the topic of ki, enemies also have visible ki bars. Yokai enemies have purple ki bars. Different weapons are better at depleting ki, same thing with skills. Some skills even benefit from being the attack that fully depletes an enemy's ki, like this skill for fists. If the follow-up after the parry fully depletes the enemy's ki, it'll knock the enemy into the air and allow me to follow up with this. So as you can see, this game lets you do some really cool shit, and I love it for that. When a yokai's meter is depleted, that's where you can start doing combos involving not just the weapons, but the many active skills that come with those weapons. There are so many skills for each weapon that can change the way you fight enemies. Some skills might be more defensive, like this move that blocks while rushing forward, or the many parry-based counters. Some are extremely high damage but need a setup to use safely, like Limitless. Some are a bit more versatile, like the Quick Draw, and some are great at reducing an enemy's ki. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but that also means the player has a lot of ways of customizing their moveset to suit their playstyle, giving the game tons of depth. With the combined mechanics of customizable skills, soul cores, guardian spirit skills, armor sets, ninjutsu, and onmyo magic, there's just so many ways to approach a fight in your own way, especially with bosses, which are a huge step up from Nioh 1. There are very few trash bosses in Nioh 2, and I'd say some of the best bosses are among the best in the genre, like Anenra, Shutendoji, not the anime girl, or the other anime girl depiction of him, and Megara Naotaka. I know people don't like the last one because he's a damage sponge, but he's a fun damage sponge. And fun damage sponge sounds a lot like another boss I happen to really enjoy. The bosses in this game can get a bit crazy, but so can the player. There's no feeling of limitation in comparison to the enemies you fight. Like, it never feels like the boss is just flat out cooler because the player character can also do some insane shit. Pulling this off requires a bit more than well-timed dodges and a couple R1s. But just in general, Nioh asks a lot from the player, both when playing defensively and offensively. An ant has the potential to one-shot you. Bosses have lengthy combos and many of them are fast. Some have tricks up their sleeves like wake-up moves or varied movesets in the Dark Realm. All of this is to say, I do find Nioh to be one of the most difficult games I've ever played, and I did say that it doesn't really sacrifice difficulty for fun, but I will say now, just so I don't seem super biased, that my biggest issue with the amount of damage enemies do is when I'm trying to learn a boss. Every other move can potentially kill me within 2 seconds. Imagine if you were taking a test and your teacher was looming over your shoulder. The moment you get one question wrong, they take it and shred the paper and make you start over. You'll get it eventually, but it's a lot more frustrating than the alternative. But once you do get past the learning curve of the bosses, comboing, active skills, gear, and stuff like that, you can then fully enjoy the game. And with that being said, I want to quickly go over 2 more things before I'm done. The devs did such a good job of making things convenient for the player. At the end of the day, this Nioh is a game, and it's clear that the devs wanted to make it as easy as possible and as quick as possible for the player to get back into the game. So you can change the appearance of armor sets, cleaning your inventory is easy, the player has a lot of control over substats, you can pause the fucking game. Every single player game should have this. I literally had to stop what I was doing mid-session once to take care of something, and when I got back I said, good thing I wasn't playing Dark Souls. Basically, the quality of life is great. All of these neat little features work to get the player straight back into the action as soon as possible. And now the music, it's really fucking good. I think William's soundtrack is my favorite. But if I have to say one that's completely unique to Nioh 2, it's probably Imagawa Yoshimoto's track. Shutendoji's and Yoshitsune's are also up there. It's to the point where I listen to a lot of it when I'm just driving around. It's just an underrated soundtrack in an underrated game. And I hope that as time goes on, people start looking back on the series as something really special, because I don't think Nioh has gotten the love and praise it deserves ever since the first one released. At its peak, it's seriously one of the best games ever. In its lows, Nioh 2 specifically, aren't enough to bring it down. I feel like the only thing Nioh needs to be one of my favorite games ever is better level design, a more concise story, and more varied environments. And maybe some way to have it be a bit more like immersive. Despite Dark Souls being as simple as it is, I think a lot of what makes it so fun is the immersion factor. But Nioh 2 just feels so gamey, and you know, it's a give and take, because Nioh feels so gamey, which is like, holy shit, I'm doing all this cool shit, but at the same time I feel like maybe as a byproduct it loses immersion because of that. But even as it is, there are very few competitors at its level of fun. I can't even come up with any other titles other than Dark Souls 1, but like I said, with, you know, the whole immersion thing, that one's for very different reasons. Now with Nioh 3 announced, Team Ninja has another chance to touch on these weak parts of the game, and I'm really hoping they do. Because that game, Nioh 3 has the foundation, just like Nioh 2 did, and you just need to keep building on top of it.
say hey yeah。